Welcome to the Block Exploring podcast, your first step into the world of crypto and blockchain. The Block Exploring podcast is your one-stop place to find quick, clear, and unbiased information on everything in the crypto space. Our goal is to help you grow familiar with the crypto space by growing along with us as we go on our crypto journeys. Follow at Block Exploring on Twitter for our newest uploads and our publishing schedule. We, here at Block Exploring, are crypto enthusiasts working hard towards becoming experts. Today's podcast is presented by co-hosts Tommy and Elias. Find us on Twitter under @SabaiSquared and @OtokoCrypto. Right now you can find us on Spotify and YouTube. Before we start the episode, we would like to inform you that we are not financial advisors. Therefore, nothing said in this podcast should be considered financial advice. Always contact your financial advisor before making any investment. With that said, sit back and enjoy today's podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 17 of News Bytes on the Block Exploring podcast. Here are Tommy and I to talk to you about tech, news, and regulation in the crypto space of this past week. Tommy, this past week, the state of the market, there was some bullish behavior, I would say. I think Bitcoin went up, like a chunk in euros. Right now, I think it's 35K, which beats the 31K height of last week. So that's like a decent, what is it, like 10-12% growth?
Yeah, I think around that mark, it's Bitcoin's been doing really well, but I think ETH as well
Yeah.
is looking pretty healthy, especially with the update around the corner, like very, very much so around the corner now. I think both Bitcoin and ETH are looking super healthy. In the last 7 days, Bitcoin's been up 21.3%, and ETH has been up 20% almost. So
Yeah.
that's pretty healthy, market movement in general.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And even the altcoins are climbing. Some of them are climbing actually like significantly, as if we're in a bit of a not in an altcoin season, but as if like they're recovering to their former, at least not all-time highs, but at least like former heights. Example is Luna, which climbed all the way back to like from 5 after the kind of crash, and now it's like 9.7 euros, which is like, that's great returns for people that bought it. And I think overall there's like kind of this vibe of recovery. If you look at Twitter, if you look at kind of like the social sentiment, I feel like people are getting a bit more confident, a bit more cocky as well with their investments. People are getting a bit wiser all of a sudden because the market went up, so their investments went up.
For sure, IQ went up with it.
IQ went up.
Yeah, I think it's looking at the charts, it looks super nice for the last 7 days. Even the last 24 hours, like loads of coins looking super juicy. Maybe some good opportunities at the moment, but obviously, be wary of what investments you make. But I think it's probably a good opportunity, to see what's out there, what other projects. Because throughout this sort of bearish, bullish time, it's pretty uneasy the last 2 weeks. Projects kept building, and communities kept, going at it, conversing on what's next. And in some respects, like from a price perspective, the market was much more bullish than I'm sure everyone would have hoped. But in terms of like community building or projects that are building and what's happening in the space as a whole, I think that overall is super bullish, and like it hasn't been a boring time at all, So now this price activity and coinciding with all this, continuous growth that's been happening in the space in general. I think it sort of sets us up for, a really nice tomorrow, hopefully. Well, you never know, but
No,
I think it's good tea leaves.
Good tea leaves indeed.
Yeah.
The astrological signs are there.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
TA is hitting hard.
Yeah, exactly. But talking about good opportunities, I think an article came out a while ago, which said, it's a Cointelegraph article. If you have a Bitcoin miner, turn it on, and it does some on-chain analysis about kind of like the network difficulty for Bitcoin right now, and it went down from like the tier of like I think it was like 25, tier 25 for difficulty, down to like tier 14,
Mm-hmm.
which is like about a well, I think as of July 2nd, it was like a 25% decrease in the difficulty of Bitcoin mining. And that was all due to, of course, like the Chinese governmental crackdown on Bitcoin mining, on cryptocurrency in general. And that makes the rates and the return on investments for the average, Bitcoin miner, the average individual Bitcoin miner, a bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't know if it's per se like the time to turn on your mining machine, because I mean, ever since like what 2017, mining Bitcoin hasn't been extremely profitable on the short term.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
it
it's
is
a
a
lot
good
of money to
it's a
mine,
good sign. Yeah,
but it is. I mean, yeah, if you have it, now is definitely. If you have a rig, now is definitely the time to
yeah,
turn it on, right? But like, it's not like, yeah, go out and buy a rig, invest in
no,
a rig,
no,
because yeah, mining rig is massive. It's a lot of money, a lot of investment.
yeah,
It's yeah, it's a lot to calculate and factor in.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, if you already have the rig, this is awesome. Like, when there was a huge lull when China banned crypto mining, Bitcoin mining, and a bunch of Chinese miners just moved all to the US. They all just
yeah,
went to the US, to use the energy there and everything, and because it's allowed. So
mm-hmm,
yeah, it's a good opportunity for, yeah, miners to, you know, eke out some more before maybe a nice leg up,
yeah,
hopefully. And maybe with this bullish, activity and sentiment as a whole, that would be, fantastic for some miners.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
definitely, if you have like access to low cost electricity, and especially like
Oh,
green
crucial.
electricity,
Yeah, yeah.
then there's definitely a good it's definitely a good time. And especially if you already are set up,
Mm-hmm.
like if you want, like, let's say, I don't know, like, let's say you start a business, right, with a bunch of these Bitcoin mining rigs,
Yeah.
and you need like a power location. To negotiate the price of that takes a long time. You have to go through governmental channels, and if
Yeah.
you're already kind of set up, it's like the moment you can really benefit now.
Yeah.
There's very few of the people. But also another opportunity that this brings, I think, is that the mining of Bitcoin has become a bit more like equitably distributed across
Mm-hmm.
the world and across people, because it's no longer like these massive mining rigs that are doing like
Mm-hmm.
90% of the hash rate and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think that's good for Bitcoin in the long term, for sure.
Yeah.
If the validation of the network is just decentralized and more
Hmm.
spread out throughout the world, yeah, that's ultimately bullish for Bitcoin in the long term, because you have a safer network, and I think that's a priority for sure.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that, of course, like added by the statements made by the CEO of what is it, Mastercard,
Mm-hmm.
Maybach, I think is his name, his last name,
Oh, really?
says that he thinks that Mastercard should be one of the go-tos for government and private entities,
Mm-hmm.
for especially like central bank digital currencies and stable coins, which is of course like dipping your toes into crypto in
Yep.
the most regulated and certain way, I guess, or like traditional way
Yep.
that is possible. But I think the adoption of it opens up to you know
Mm-hmm.
actually, like, if they adopt to something like fiat stable coins, etc., there you can exchange those easily for cryptocurrencies.
Mm-hmm.
That's extremely bullish for
Yep.
the space. And following up with like if this would actually happen, if this would kind of like follow up like how PayPal did, uh PayPal merchant payments,
Yeah.
like last, what was it, like
2 months ago.
yeah, 2 months ago. And this is like a more like actual way of doing it, instead of instantly selling it or like converting it to fiat and then giving it to the merchant.
Right.
This is
Yeah.
like extremely bullish.
I think it's super interesting how there seems to be something for everyone in the crypto space. You know,
Hmm.
there's some who are, full DeFi degens, bankless lifestyle.
Yeah,
That's their vibe. Crypto, what's it called? Cypherpunk, kind of vibe.
yeah,
But there's also, space for there's people, space for people in between, people who like NFTs, people who like whatever. But there's
Mm-hmm.
also space for these companies and institutions who are trying to angle themselves as the on ramp for governments and private entities like other institutions to get into crypto and
Yeah.
blockchain. I think we see this in like Mastercard, for example, now, like just very outright, trying to position themselves as this go-to for
Mm-hmm.
governments. But I think PayPal is in a similar vein. They're kind of doing what like a lot of people have called the DeFi mullet. There's like, traditional fintech in the front, but DeFi in the back, which is like,
Yeah.
the straight party. Yeah, so that's like I think more and more of what we might see in the future. There'll probably be the need for these institutions to, play out this role
Mm-hmm.
because not everyone is gonna be versed enough in you know, to have wallets, to do the trading, to do the, DeFi protocols, to do all these things and they, like real old school, they'll just wanna have some big bank or whatever
Yeah.
do it for them. And yeah,
Yeah.
so if this is, I guess, I think it's very smart for Mastercard to position itself in such a way,
Mm-hmm.
almost hedging its future. Because there's going to be loads of financial services which they've provided, which is going to be made obsolete or
Yeah.
be done better by some code on the
Yeah.
on chain, and yeah, so they need to angle themselves to hedge against what could be a very uncertain future for financial industry.
Mm. And I think also it's interesting to see that like the large players in kind of like the financial services industry, like Mastercard,
Yeah.
PayPal, Visa, they're all saying like, oh, crypto is kind of the future. We need to enable crypto services on our platforms, blah de blah de blah.
Yeah, after
And
declaring
government,
it dead 20
after
times.
declaring it dead, after government said no, this is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
worst plan ever, the guys or like the companies that are actually involved in financial services,
yeah,
they're saying this is inevitable.
yeah, exactly. You have to follow their money and not
Yeah,
what they say as well, a lot of the time. But this is an instance where those things actually are side by side
yeah,
you know
no, exactly. And especially now you see like governments and
Mhm.
like regulatory institutions, they're becoming a bit more, after of course declaring crypto like the worst thing that ever happened since,
Yeah.
I don't know. You see, like larger governments now starting to enable institutional investment,
Hmm.
institutional holding of cryptocurrencies, mainly like things like Bitcoin and like the more established cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
And very notably, and I'd like to take a bit of an little ego stride.
Hmm.
Germany announced it, I think, a few months ago. I tweeted it out. I said, hey, guys, keep your eyes peeled for July 2nd. Then
Yeah.
they delayed it to August um, 2nd.
Fourth.
So tomorrow, when this podcast comes out, so
Hmm.
for the people who are listening today or the 2nd of August, Germany will allow uh, institutional investments, institutional funds
Hmm.
to hold crypto. And that is like extremely bullish because Germany is like, I don't know, it's like definitely one of the in the top 10 largest economies globally.
Yeah.
And for them to do this, and very much so under the radar, I'd like to add, because this is not being covered heavily, to allow holding crypto
Hmm.
is a massive step forward into actual adoption on a large scale.
For sure. And that's like what we want to see, right? As crypto natives, is like these big countries taking bold steps to adopt this new technology, and a country like Germany doing so, I think is super positive, especially in regards to the EU,
Hmm.
because it's often said, France and Germany, they kind of lead the EU in a sense.
Yeah.
And for Germany to be taking that step, it's not a stretch to imagine that that influences, discussion around cryptocurrency within Europe or within, the EU.
Hmm.
And I think that's super bullish for sure. For sure. Imagine
Yeah.
loads of people just move to Germany for that reason alone.
Yeah, but I also think like it's really being underestimated how large this influx of wealth will be, because um, like the funds that will be allowed to invest in crypto, they're called I think Spezialfonds or
Okay.
something. It's like just an institutional fund that does investments,
Yeah.
and they manage $2.1 trillion worth of
Oh,
assets.
yeah.
And
That's no small penny
yeah, and
for sure.
I think there was an interview with a guy called Tim Kreutzmann, and he works for like a German investment fund who like associates with these special funds.
Okay.
Is that he speculates that they will stay below like 20% of their holdings. So
Okay.
if you do the calc on that,
Mm.
that's about 400 billion that can potentially flow. That's like
Oh,
the ideal situation right now, but it opens up a lot of potential inflow
yeah.
of fiat currency into the crypto space.
Oh, for sure.
And I think it's
Yeah.
very, that 400 billion is a
It's a lot.
significant chunk
Yeah, yeah.
when it comes to the total market cap of crypto right now.
That's no, that would definitely move price, I imagine.
Yeah, and
Like,
even the opportunity of it happening will
mm,
move price. So I think
exactly.
it's something that's low key right now, but it should be taken into account because it can be significant.
Hmm.
And especially Germany creating like these laws, creating more certainty towards like what is the future of crypto in Germany, for
Yeah,
instance.
for
That will
sure.
also set a tone in the EU, because Germany is not a nobody in the EU.
No,
Kind of
exactly.
what they want tends to
Hmm.
happen. And yeah, just a massive economical force like Germany making this
Yeah,
a
Germany is
potential.
huge. Germany is
Yeah,
huge. It's a good call, I
yeah,
think.
I agree. I think everyone's portfolio will agree as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah. I think that's great, and also will add so much more legal certainty in Europe when it comes to
Hmm.
crypto, because like a few countries are very anti-crypto, a few countries are very pro-crypto, like
Hmm.
Portugal. They don't have tax on crypto.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's so good.
yeah. So like these kinds of there's just a large dispersion in how governments in Europe tend to treat crypto, and having like a major economical force do this,
Hmm.
that will, I think, if I were to speculate, and that's what we do with crypto, right? We speculate.
Yeah.
I would say that that has a potentially large kind of domino effect
Hmm.
that it takes with it.
For sure.
And especially now where like it's not just Germany that's moving towards more regulation, and that's what we say, right, Tommy? We
Hmm.
say regulation. That's what you need. That you
Yeah.
need the regulation for the mass adoption, for all this cool stuff that we're talking about to happen. The U.S. Treasury has proposed a bill for them to have full authority on fiat stablecoins. Some might oppose this. Some might agree with this. I personally agree with it because I think a stablecoin of U.S. fiat currency is just a reskin
Hmm.
of the dollar,
Yeah.
but then with a bit of crypto in it. And yeah, you have stable coins for a reason. They're also governed. They're not as decentralized as everyone wants them to be.
Yeah.
Blah de blah de blah. This is the first step that governments will take into adopting crypto, and especially something as like conservative with their financial system as the U.S. I think it's extremely bullish. What do you think about that?
Mm, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting news to come out, and I'm just curious about how this regulation looks in terms
Mm-hmm.
of regulating Tether, for
Mm-hmm.
example. What other, USDC, all those other dollar-based stable coins. I just don't know what that looks like. Like how, what what is the U.S. government? How are they going to regulate Tether and Coinbase in this regards? And like, I'm just curious and really intrigued, really, about that interaction
Mm-hmm.
and what that actually looks like.
Well,
Whether
I
it's
think
bullish, I'm not sure. I think yeah, it's bullish that there's progressive. Progressive isn't the right word, but there's gradual crypto regulation that's taking place, so you kind of know that it's being talked about, it's being thought about. I'm just not clear on whether like this specifically is bullish
Hmm.
for crypto, that the US is then going to regulate digital dollar, because I'm not quite sure what that means, that the US will start regulating the digital dollar, and what does that mean? They're going to control the issuance
Yeah,
of of stable tokens, or are they?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm
I
not quite
think.
sure what that looks like, but I think it's something to watch, because it's
I
it's
think.
it's important. Like, stable tokens are here to stay, I think.
Oh, definitely. And I also
Yeah.
think that when it comes to this, they will look at things like anti-money laundering schemes
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, and consumer protection. And
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if it's the best thing that they would like regulate issuance, because the SEC or like the U.S. Treasury isn't really great with keeping inflation low.
Yep.
But
Right.
if I look at things like well, if I look at the title of the act, right, that they're proposing, it's the Digital Asset Market Structure and Investment Protection Act.
Hmm.
I think that that mainly focuses on anti-money laundering,
Yep.
and I think potentially the way that these stable coins are maintained. So like the
Okay.
framework with which they're distributed, minted, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that it kind of makes sense, because of course you have a digital dollar. The US wants to introduce a digital dollar,
Yep.
and they are already there in the form of these stable coins, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But
That's why
yeah.
some people advocate for calling them crypto dollars as
Hmm.
opposed to stable tokens, because they're not stable. they're you
Yeah.
know they're not, I mean, stable in the sense they're pegged to the dollar, but that's not not a stable asset
No,
either.
that's
So
true.
that's why some people say we should be calling them crypto dollars, and stable tokens are should be
Hmm.
some completely different thing.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know. Forget what ideas. There are loads of projects. Something about, like, decentralized. You know, I don't know. You
Hmm.
know what? I don't want to speak, on projects that I can't, really speak on.
Hmm.
But but those are like ideas that are being thrown out anyway.
Yeah. And I think one kind of like double-edged side of this bill,
Hmm.
and of what the U.S. Treasury is trying to do, is that they're trying to have the power to prohibit the issuance of new U.S. dollar pegged fiat-based stable coins.
All right. Okay.
And specifically, the article that I read outlines that they want to be able to permit or prohibit US dollar
Hmm.
and other fiat based stable coins. And I think that's exceeding authority a bit,
Okay.
because
Hmm.
let's say, like there's kind of a stable coin for the euro. It's not very commonly used,
Yeah.
but they are there, but like, why would the American government need to be able to permit or prohibit a euro pegged stablecoin? I don't
Exactly.
know. And I think
Hmm.
that's where you have to watch out for this kind of legislation, that it's not just like an exclusionary way of monopolizing currency in a digital way.
Hmm.
So that's something definitely to keep into account as well. Yeah,
For sure.
that's definitely a tendency that the US has had when it comes to kind of like crypto, right? Like,
The huge.
yeah,
Yeah. The usual.
overregulate and gatekeep.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that wraps up the talk about regulation right now. Moving on to tech, Tommy,
Good.
fractionalized NFTs.
So the NFT space has been popping, and I find myself mostly hanging out, amongst NFT Twitter, and NFT projects in general. I think are the ones that excite me the most,
Mm-hmm.
because I think about the wide application of NFTs and the many use cases that haven't even been touched,
Mm-hmm.
that NFTs can be used for. And you know fractionalized NFTs are now a thing. There's a project called Fractional that allows you to fractionalize your NFTs into multiple tokens, and multiple bits of the same token,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives you access, to the NFT, underlying NFT, which is pretty awesome development, I think, because now you have situations where I've seen that, like, big popular NFTs, like, historical ones like CryptoPunks, even cool cat NFTs, and so many NFTs now can be fractionalized. I've seen, yeah, like, this guy who owned the CryptoPunk fractionalized his CryptoPunk, sold that token to
Mm-hmm.
100 people, and now, yeah, that's insane. Like, all these people have access to this CryptoPunk, this community that didn't have that before.
Yeah.
And for the original uh buyer, for the original owner of the NFT, of the CryptoPunk, I can only
Mm-hmm.
imagine, like, how much he actually made off of fractionalizing his NFT, and he still gets access to it. Like, it's like he's still a owner of, you know his CryptoPunk was like this hooded punk, so like this token that they made was like, $ hood.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, loads of people own this hood, and it was really interesting to see, like, there was a Twitter Spaces where there were, like, 20 people with the same CryptoPunk profile picture, because they all own it. They all own like a bit of it, which is pretty cool. And that's like one of the few things that are now possible with NFTs in like such a fastly growing space. I know last week we talked
Mm-hmm.
a bit about Axie Infinity, and I've jumped into Axie Infinity pretty deep now, and it's just crazy, like, what's possible with NFTs. And this fractional NFTs, I think, is just doing what they've done now with fractional NFTs. Is just probably the beginning of what you can do with fractional NFTs. I'm sure, like, different projects will come around and,
Mm-hmm.
like, just find ways to build upon, like, what you can do with fractional NFTs, and do so in a creative way that
Yeah.
I think, yeah, will be super cool to see in future what people do with fractional NFTs and NFTs in general.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it's whenever we spoke about NFTs the first time on this podcast,
Mm,
my first critique of why I don't buy NFTs, why I don't
mm,
trade NFTs is because I found it too illiquid.
yep.
And what happens with these fractionalized NFTs is that they make these more expensive NFTs or NFTs in general more liquid if they are fractionalized
Yep.
because yeah, it's like that's what makes NFTs like extremely unique. They're
Mhm,
non-fungible and they're limited in like their supply.
mhm,
Yeah. And by fractionalizing them, you just make it more liquid. Selling and buying becomes easier, and especially something like low liquidity levels in the NFT space are something that's I think held back a bit. It slows down trading, etc., etc.,
mhm,
and that's not what you want. And then this fractionalization of NFTs that makes it. I think it gives it a lot more potential, and it also gives the owner of the original NFT a lot more agency over how he wishes to use his NFT. And I
mhm,
think that's extremely positive for the NFT space. And I think it will also create a lot more opportunity for the use cases of NFTs outside of simply um, art.
mhm,
Like let's say a programmer makes a program and he says, man, I want everyone to use it, but I want to get paid. And I
yeah.
don't want to have people pay me a subscription because I think that's like unethical, blah, 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 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't fit his business model or it's too, maintenance heavy. He says, okay, I write this code, I write this app, I fractionalize it.
Mhm,
People can just buy it individually
yeah.
in a limited quantity, but still fractionalized. And there we go.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Fractionalizing. That's damn. You see, we've already come up with a new use case for fractional NFTs. If you
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's sick. That's
Yeah.
so sick. And yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, and that person could also just, when he's minting the NFT, build in some royalty.
Yeah.
So he gets the best of both worlds, the low management and a subscription like royalty thing.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
and but it's interesting how these projects are building in scarcity, building in significance for their NFTs and for,
Hmm.
I mean, gaming, like play to earn gaming is huge now.
Yeah.
and especially with Axie Infinity, who've created like this economy that's like really created a real demand for their SLP token, and a
Hmm.
constant need to play the game, coupled with like an army of people who want to play the game, but the game
Hmm.
is there's levels to this
Yeah.
play to earn, and we're just at the beginning of it, which is what's mad, because people are already starting to buy houses, be able to buy houses in developing countries with
Yeah.
what they earn on games. So when people, make use of the levels of economy that are built in by some of these really great projects, it's pretty life changing,
Yeah.
and that could be fractional NFTs as well for someone.
Absolutely. And if you look at, I don't know, like I think the fact that fractional NFTs,
Hmm.
that they're becoming more popular. I think a while back, I remember um, Hester Pierce from the
Okay. Yeah.
SEC. He warned against the potential illegality of fractionalized NFTs under current legislation.
Mm.
And he warned that like issuing fractionalized NFTs can be considered by the SEC under their current legislation and their
Yeah.
framework as an investment contract. And I
Right.
think that's definitely something that it isn't
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's ownership, it's not investment per se. And I think that's definitely something that, as big advocates for regulation in the crypto space, is something that should be fixed
Yeah.
because NFTs aren't per se investments, There's so much more of a use case than NFTs as investments.
Yeah. There's like levels to it, and what is an investment, what can be considered an investment, and
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's probably just an ongoing debate, really, and
yeah,
hopefully regulators are tapped in. They're not usually, but it would be nice if they're tapped in
yeah,
to the discourse.
yeah, and of course to the Block Exploring podcast. So Hester Pierce, if you're listening to this.
Listen up. Yeah, listen up.
Yeah. Well, Hester Pierce, if you're listening to this, tune in next week for another episode of the Block Exploring podcast. Until then, follow us on Twitter at Block Exploring, at Sabai Squared, that's Tommy, and at Otoko Crypto, that's me, Elias. And we'll see you next time.
All right, take it easy.